WN Sports. We got the Wizards looking to close out the Atlanta Hawks. You got the Capitals beginning a fresh series with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And, of course, fresh baby birds all weekend long. All the breaking news this weekend of the draft on the WNST text service. You'll get that first if you subscribe. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Meanwhile, the Orioles, the first place best in baseball Orioles, get a day off and then go to Yankee Stadium for a long weekend series with the Yankees, who they saw a couple of weeks ago. This guy's been running around with the Yankees, who, like the Orioles, have been better than advertised. He is our old pal, Pete Caldera. From the Bergen Record, you can follow his journey out on Twitter at P. Caldera. And when he's not doing Yankee stuff, he's moonlighting as the occasional band vocalist with the Stan Rubin Orchestra in old Manhattan, Gotham, and the Orioles headed to Yankee Stadium for a long weekend. What's going on, Pete? Good tidings from Yankees and Orioles fans. It's been a far better start for both of these franchises than I think they believed, right?
Yeah, great to talk to you, Nestor. Yeah, it's been as good a start as the Yankees could have hoped for, and you're getting contributions from the young players that they were hopeful to get off to good starts. I think especially for Luis Severino and Aaron Judge. They're still waiting for Greg Bird to sort of fire here. They're waiting on Gary Sanchez to get off the disabled list. They've been doing this without Didi Gregorius at shortstop, and they may get him back for this Orioles series. But yeah, it could not have been a better start for a young team like this.
Pete, I'm an old fart, and I'm reading about the old Oakland A's right now. Jason Turbo has a great book on Charlie Finley, and a lot of those guys wound up in the Yankees, into the Bronx Zoo, and into those bad times in the 80s where the big bad media was going to come and get them, or they didn't have enough talent, or the talent, maybe like in 94, 95, 96, was a little too young. This was the first year where there's no expectation on the Yankees at all. Is that, and I know you've been on the beat a while, is there a little sort of pressure point where the pin's out of the balloon a little bit for some of these young kids? And even this kind of start takes even more pressure off. I would think if I'm a Yankees fan and I've been in the World Series and I've won all this stuff, this is kind of a fun little era. I mean, we're kind of hoping for one of these eras with the Ravens with the draft picks this weekend, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's really unique to this Yankee era when you consider, if you take it back to, how long Brian Cashman's been the GM here. This is his 20th year. He really never had a situation like he did last year where he was allowed to break it down and sort of rebuild it with an asterisk. The Yankees are never going to be in complete rebuild mode. They're always going to be looking to add and hoping to sort of reload as they can, and credit to their ownership and Cashman and his lieutenants for sticking to their guns and sort of believing in this crop of young players that they had in their system, and there's more on the way, and and they can always use some of this surplus of young talent they have to go make a deal if they need to. Go get a Quintana at the All-Star break or the trade deadline if this in fact has accelerated to the point where this whole relaxed atmosphere they're sort of enjoying gets pretty intense, and now they're in the middle of an actual honest to goodness pennant race. So it's going to be interesting to watch. But yeah, but you certainly did have that vibe, Nestor, that you didn't have for a very long time in spring training, that this was a development year and, sort of a house money year with the Yankees. You don't get those pretty often.
At what point does that change, Pete? The more they win, as you pointed out, a real honest-to-God pennant race, well, come on, dude, it's May. And they're kind of ahead of the pack. And, unless they went into some ridiculous tailspin like, let's say, Toronto starting the season, maybe they got a 3-12 in them somewhere along the line. You know better than I do at this point, but it certainly seems to me that with young talent, it's likely to get better. These were all high pedigree guys. They got a bunch of blue chippers at every level. They certainly could trade their way, back into a pennant race at some point as teams sort of trail off and want to, dole off. The Blue Jays may be one of the teams doling off players. Certainly the Royals look like they're going to be doling stolen off players before it's all over with. There's no reason to believe this team can't win 90, 95 games as comprised right now. And, I had said all along, I think you and I talked at some point during the offseason, I thought that the Yankees were the sleeping giant, and I thought that trade deadline thing, now we put 6 months behind it or whatever it's been, 8 months behind it now, they got away sort of, the media all understood, the fans sort of understood, except for the idiots, and this thing's paying off even earlier with some fun and some victories and some prosperity for them, right?
Yeah, and the fans really pushed for this. I think they wanted it. They were tired of looking at, the old players that they had and really kind of the treadmill thing. And they were eager to see guys like Sanchez and Judge and Bird and Severino and they're even more excited, I think, to see guys they have in their system who are sort of pushing the envelope like Gleyber Torres and Clint Frazier. But yeah, it's all going to depend, Nestor, on obviously how they do in the teeth of the division, but it's also going to depend on how strong are the Red Sox? Does David Price thing really take some of the wind out of their sails? Are the Blue Jays really this poor to mediocre? And the Yankees have had a lot of trouble winning games at Toronto. So and they don't go there yet. So they still have those games to play. We always forget how long a baseball season is, and April's promise doesn't really mean much in looking ahead to May and June and July. So there's a lot of baseball, a lot of territory left to cover here. But the Yankees still reserve the right to spend where they can, and that means either money or young players to get what they want. And certainly Brian Cashman told me back in February, I'm looking to add here. The best case scenario for us would be if we're looking to be buyers at the trade deadline, and that's the way it's at least trending right now.
He is P. Caldera. He is P. Caldera. That's Caldera out on Twitter and as well as at the Bergen Record and covering the Yankees. Of course, the Orioles and the Yankees getting together this weekend. Missing Tanaka, which I guess is the good news for the Orioles side of things. And, of course, Bundy won't be pitching against the Yankees either, saving him for the Red Sox next week. Sabathia, Gausman, Pineda, Jimenez, Montgomery, and Miley. Pete, what do you love about the Yankees right now? Convince me that I look at the schedule. We're going to play some games in September. Convince me that we're going to be talking about a couple of teams that are 8, 10, 12, 15 games over 500 at that point and very relevant in at least a wild card race if the Red Sox don't come up and run away with this thing, which it certainly doesn't look like that's going to happen right now.
Yeah, you got to like what you're seeing out of their rotation, which was the weak point of their team going into this year. You weren't sure what if Severino was going to fulfill the promise that they have for him as a future frontline starter, or was his future going to be in the bullpen where he had a lot more success? And he's only 23, so they still had a lot of high hopes for him. So far so good there. CC Sabathia, the line in winter, has sort of remade himself into a finesse pitcher, and he's giving them some length. The surprising left-hander that sort of came off the radar to join their rotation late in spring training, and the Orioles will see him this weekend, is Jordan Montgomery, and you always like a left-hander at Yankee Stadium. So they're Michael Pineda is off to a really good start. So you're getting length and distance out of and quality out of your starting rotation. And if you can hand leads to that bullpen, well, you still have one of the best bullpens in baseball when you've got Tyler Clippard and Dellin Betances and Aroldis Chapman at the end. So that's what you really like about them so far.
Well, the bullpen's built to win, right? If they were to pick up, let's say, a starter, if that's what they need, and a position player, and look, getting Sanchez back at this point, and I mean, the out-of-world, predictions for him in the offseason and the kind of August and September he had. But if he's back and is just a legitimate contributing guy that ends the season with 24 home runs somehow and drives in 80 runs and, through 110 games or whatever that number is going to be, where are we with him? I would think that that's as big a part of this story, his comeback, as any of this. If he stinks or is non-existent the rest of the year, that would certainly hinder their chances.
Yeah, well, he's just beginning really his rehab. But I guess by next week, perhaps early next week, you'll see him go out on a rehab assignment. I think he may be back by maybe by next weekend when the Yankees go to play the defending world champion Cubs at Wrigley Field. So I think that's the best case scenario. And then, yeah, like as you said, at least there's what you're seeing in this Yankee lineup, and you're seeing it without Sanchez and without Gregorius, who was 20-70 last year. Is they have depth. This is a harder lineup to navigate through, and when you add Sanchez and Gregorius back in there, it's going to be even more difficult. You got Aaron Judge hitting 6 and 7. They're getting a lot out of Starlin Castro. They're getting a lot of Jacoby Ellsbury, and they really haven't gotten much out of Gardner or Bird, and they're still doing some nice things offensively, and that lineup is just going to get deeper and more difficult to navigate, and that's what you want. They want to be hard outs from 1 through 9, and it's a much more quality lineup than they put out in the last 3 years.
Pete Caldera joining us here from the Bergen Record, covering the Yankees and the Birds up in New York all weekend. Where are you on the Machado, Bryce Harper, Trout thing? I mean, I'll be taking your temperature on this a couple times this year and into next year because it does sort of creep up on us. I remember when I was talking about Kevin Durant to the Wizards, and that lasted about 4 years, but really about a minute and a half. Is it bluster in your mind? I mean, certainly Machado plays into it when you guys go up to his locker and ask him about it. He's been foolish enough to say the wrong things instead of the right things from the Baltimore side. I've met the owner here, by the way, Pete, and I know how much money they've pocketed and how much they've used this lawsuit in some way to say, well, we might lose this. At some point they're going to have to pony up a year and a half, 2 years from now if they want Machado to hang around. And the minute he gets to market, I mean, he's gone from Baltimore, so I can't say that they would deal him in a pennant race. I thought this year they would be a depleted team, and maybe that would be something on their mind to do what the Yankees did last year. But I don't see that happening. I see Machado playing it out here, and I don't see a real happy ending on this end. I see him in a Phillies hat or a Yankees hat. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not something, just as a baseball fan in general, I'd love to see Machado, mature and grow and develop and carry the Orioles back to, pennant contention. I think he's one of the most amazing players in the game right now, just watching him from both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. Harper's the kind of guy, though, that you can really picture in a Yankee uniform. He was a Yankee fan growing up. He's got a left-handed swing that, you wouldn't think 50 home runs playing 81 games in Yankee Stadium would be, too high of a bar for him if he's playing 150, 160 games a year. So, that's the guy I would think that might have if you had a handicap it between Machado and Harper, if they both went to free agency, which one would wind up a Yankee? I'd put my money on the Harper happening. But it'll be interesting to see. And I just but the Yankees still have such quality outfield talent in their system. It'll be interesting to see from their standpoint whether they feel they can trade off guys like Clint Frazier, or even possibly entertain a deal for Judge in the right deal going forward if they think they want to set their sights on a Harper. So that'll be interesting to see.
Pete, are you a believer? I mean, do you think the Yankees have it in them this year here? And it's certainly with the Orioles getting off to the kind of start they've had, it's very hard to believe in the rotation night after night. And Jimenez is a box of chocolates, as you'll find out this weekend, as well as Wade Miley. But the thing is held up so far so good around here, and they're not really at full strength at all with no Britton and no Tillman.
Yeah. Just on the Yankee side, I mean, you're coming to be a believer, but there still has to be so much that goes right with this Yankee team, and we knew it coming out of spring training. Is this a mirage we're seeing out of the starting rotation? Or are they actually going to expect to get this kind of quality? Can the young kids maintain this when the spotlight's only going to get hotter and more intense as they produce? People are going to expect to see these tape measure home runs from Judge. They're going to expect to see, what Greg Bird did in spring training when he hit 450, and now he's hovering somewhere just north of 100. That's going to get more intense as they win, and we'll see if they can keep that together. But there's still so much, I think, that absolutely has to go right for the Yankees to not only make the playoffs, but contend for their division when you've got such a loaded team like the Red Sox, looming there. So I guess the short answer is I don't know, but you got to really like what you've seen out of both the Orioles and the Yankees so far, and there's a lot of games left.
Hey, man, great to have you on, as always. The Orioles will enjoy the visit up there. A lot of Oriole fans been going on the road, and I'm sure you'll hear some Orange O roars up there. We'll stay in touch during the course of the season. And, hey, when are you performing with the Stan Rubin Orchestra in Manhattan? How often do you do that?
I'm actually going to be, I'll be there Friday night.
Look at that.
I'll be missing the first Oriole game, and I'll be at the Carnegie Club on Friday night.
What are you doing, standards? You doing some Sinatra, some Bennett? What are you doing?
The standards, if Bobby Darin or Sinatra or Tony Bennett or Nat Cole sang it, we'll be doing it, basically. So it's a lot of fun with a little band, and it's terrific.
All right, a little Mac the Knife my way, if I can throw a request out there, all right?
Mac the Knife, definitely, yeah.
You got it. Hey, Pete, great having you on, man. Have some fun this weekend, okay?
Great to be with you, Nestor. Thank you.
We'll see you in the big city. He is Pete Caldera, Bergen record, Yankees beat writer, and occasional band vocalist with the Stan Rubin Orchestra in Old Manhattan. You can follow him at Pete Caldera. That's Caldera out on Twitter, and, of course, at the Bergen Record and bergenrecord.com. You can find me out in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device. It's all brought to you by buyatoyota.com. And don't forget, we're going to be on it all weekend long with this draft thing. We've got the road trips to London, to Minnesota, to Green Bay, as well as Minneapolis this year. We got the $100 off deal for the next 10 days. Get on up to WNST.net. Throw me an email. I can only offer the $100 off. It's about airlines and getting deals done with the airlines. So do it. Jump on. If you're going to Green Bay, you're going to Nashville, you're going to London, why not save some dough and join us right now? And you can always send me an email over the weekend, nasty@WNST.net. We got the draft covered. We got the Wizards covered. I'm going to be in Pittsburgh all next week with the Caps broadcasting from up there. I think I'm going to hit the Clemente Museum as well while I'm in Pittsburgh. My Latin brothers there, and I have a Clemente shirt. It's not much Pirates that you'll ever see me in, but I will wear a Clemente shirt from time. You'd never catch me in a Pittsburgh Pirate hat. Obviously, Steelers. I mean, Patooey. Same thing with the Penguins. I think I have it. All the black and gold stuff I have is like UMBC or Towson. But all that's going to get tested next week, I promise you. Might even have some surprise visitors next week as well. A lot of draft stuff going on over the weekend. All the breaking news happens first on our WNST tech service. That's brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And Dennis will be here on Thursday getting you ready for next weekend as well. Boy, we got a busy, busy time here with basketball and hockey and baseball and the draft. Hope you're enjoying it. And the spring has sprung, and hopefully your sinuses aren't bothering you. Should be so lucky. I am Nasty at WNST.net. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.